Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. What a week it's been in America. I think I still have the adrenaline in my blood flowing from that victory saw on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and the results that keep on coming in, and President Trump continuing to expand on that popular vote that he won so resoundingly. Wasn't expected to do so. Very few pollsters out there got it right. My friends at Rasmussen were right over the target the whole entire time, yet they're not getting the credit that they so deserve. There's very few pollsters we have on the show. Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, John McLaughlin of the McLaughlin Group, and Robert Cahaley of Trafalgar Group, all polling this election just as it should. But if you took your information from 538 and those folks over there, they told you New York Times and Siena were the folks that you had to believe. That was the gold standard. Now that we have the election results in, they were accurate within, I think, 12 or so percent. The folks I just told you, Rasmussen, were in the 80s to 90s, off on the popular vote by just 0.2. So going forward, I think we know who we have to believe, but there's no one else to blame but the corrupt Marxist media. A lot going on in America right now. Judge Juan Merchant in New York looking to figure out a way on how he could dismiss that guilty charge against President Trump in New York. I want to bring in our guest today. He's someone you guys all know very well, a weekly guest on the Great America Show, the great Roger Stone. Roger, let's start with that. You see Jack Smith first go to the DOJ and figure out how he can get rid of those charges against Trump. Now we hear Juan Merchant maybe doing the same exact thing over in New York.
Well, I have mixed emotions about this, John, because in all honesty, I would like to have seen the process play out. Yeah. As you know, Judge Eileen Cannon ruled that Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. Yep. That's because he was never confirmed by the U.S. Senate to have these broad, sweeping prosecutorial powers. There is no law that creates the position that he's in, and there's no budgeted funding for his massive multi-million-dollar inquisition and witch hunt. That's now before the 11th Circuit because Smith has challenged it. I'm not sure what would have happened there, but it would ultimately go to the Supreme Court. I happen to believe that Judge Cannon is correct. Now, I'm not a lawyer. It's just based on my opinion of reading and talking to lawyers that I do respect. The reason this interested me, of course, is because if Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional, that means that Robert Mueller's appointment was unconstitutional because the identical circumstances, which means not only would I have been pardoned, but the charges against me would have to be vacated. I would have moved to vacate them since they were fraudulent anyway. In essence here, by getting elected president, Mr. Smith has recognized the futility of trying to prosecute a soon-to-be sitting president, and therefore I think he knows that the jig is up, and therefore he will probably dismiss the charges and resign. Therefore, the whole question of these so-called special counsels really were acting illegitimately will never be resolved, at least not in the short term. Now you see them in New York realizing that frame job that was done in the so-called hush money case, they're trying to find a way to unwind that. So I can't even imagine the incredible pressure on election day, knowing that one of two things was going to happen. Either you were going to be restored to the White House and be given the opportunity to return this country to unprecedented peace and prosperity and opportunity for all, and potentially go down now as one of the giants of the American presidency, along with Washington, Lincoln, and others, or you were going to die in a dank jail cell, having lost all of your money and your public reputation having been completely ruined. That's what was at stake personally for Donald Trump. Imagine the stress of that. Yet, who else could do 4 rallies in one day? Yeah. And that day after he'd done 3 rallies the previous day. In a replay of the closing days of 2016, he simply outworked Kamala Harris, but he also had a message for America that we could return to prosperity, that we could achieve peace again in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe. So the American people are not as stupid as those in the lying Marxist mass media think they are. And they didn't buy the closing arguments of Kamala Harris, which seemed to me to be Trump is literally Hitler. Everybody who supports him is a Nazi. That's not much of a closing message. It's not very uplifting, to say the least.
I did a 7-hour live stream on election night, and one of my guests, Michael Lauber, who runs a show on this network, I boiled it all down to, Roger. They started calling Nazis now because they don't know what these other words they use are. They don't know what xenophobes is. They can't spell the word. Fascist, Joy Reid, I would bet $1 million she couldn't tell you the definition of a fascist, let alone spell the word fascist. So the word Nazi, I think, is easy. It resonates with Hitler. It's an easy 4-letter word, not hard to spell, anything like that. But we are seeing some of these go away. And you mentioned, obviously, you're not a lawyer, but your assessment you just gave of that case is one that Jeff Clark, former U.S. Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Division, told me on yesterday's show. For everyone who missed it, exactly what you had said. So it's going to be interesting to see in New York, because the New York case is obviously not covered under what would be Jack Smith's charges as a sitting president, but it is covered under the Supreme Court ruling, which is why it should have been thrown out as soon as that ruling came down, because I said it yesterday. Hope Hicks testified while she worked with President Trump while he was in the White House. That should have never happened according to that Supreme Court ruling. That's it, case closed. But it seems now Judge Juan Merchant, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but for everyone who watched yesterday, Jeff Clark and I broke down the similarities between Chutkan and the differences between Chutkan, who continued to allow this case to progress as President Trump was running for re-election, and Judge Juan Merchant, who said, okay, you know what, I'm a little conflicted here, Merchant. Let's take a step back here. Let's delay the sentencing until after the election. Let's see what happens. Now, I don't know if it's because he's going to run for higher office, maybe the appellate court, and this would be a stain on that. But he did come back and acted a little bit more sensibly, and now looking like he probably will dismiss it, which, it's a win and a loss for Trump at the same time. Like you had said, he doesn't get to go ahead and win that appeal. But you know what? He saves himself a little bit of money. He saves himself the time. He saves himself the headache. And we've got bigger things to worry about, Roger, like a witch hunt number 2. Take a listen to Tish James. Now, I don't know how often it is, Roger. You've been doing this for far longer than me. How often does a state's attorney general come out and speak after a presidential election? Take a listen to Tish James. I want to get your reaction.
We did not expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before, and we used the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
Roger, what in the world is Big Tish talking about?
Well, first of all, people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. Her entire political career, I think, has been financed illegally. As you know, Eric Adams is currently charged with taking money from foreign sources, giving it to straw donors, and then putting it through New York City's campaign finance matching fund on a 10-to-1 basis. Right. So he turned $100,000 into almost $900,000. Tish James was on the New York City Council before she got elected Attorney General. An examination of her campaign finance records will show some troubling patterns in the same regard. That's just the beginning. Then there's the funding of her campaign for Attorney General, where that pattern is even larger. There are other matters where I think she's betrayed the public trust. So she's overreaching enormously. She's extraordinarily vulnerable because I believe that evidence exists that she herself has broken the law in such a way that she herself should be prosecuted. I don't know what she and her cohorts intend to try to cook up next, but their last 2 New York-based trials against Donald Trump were transparently absurd. First, they tried to strip him of all of his wealth, to destroy him financially. I'm still trying to understand this case. So Trump valued his assets and that he used for collateral in big loans that he got from banks. Those banks conducted their own due diligence regarding the value of those assets. Rather than taking what Trump said they were worth, they made their own decision about what they were worth. They then lent Trump the money. Trump paid them back, and they made $40 million in interest. Who is the victim, John? Who complained? First of all, there is no complaint. So who was victimized? Nobody. And by the way, every one of those banks wanted to do the deal again.
Yeah, of course.
So that case in which Trump was not even allowed to put up a defense, basically that knucklehead judge said, "You're guilty. Mar-a-Lago is only worth 15 or 18
million. Yeah.
Absurd, but if that's true, I could put together an investor group and we'll buy it.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, he says, so the only question here is what the penalty is going to be that you pay. And it was like the movie where the guy wants, $100 billion. It was like crazy. That case is an absurdity. Yeah. The hush money case is an absurdity. Even if there was a violation of law there, and I don't concede there was, it would have been at worst a business records violation, which would be a civil case, and Trump would have paid a small fine. If there was a settlement that was designed to cover up some larger underlying federal crime, perhaps there would be a case, but the prosecutor could never define that crime. It wasn't a federal election law crime. So the judge wouldn't let the former chairman and general counsel of the federal election testify, because that's what he would have said. He's a leading expert on the law in the country, but no, he can't testify. There is no crime here in either one of these cases. The reason that they're backing off now is the whole purpose of the case was election interference, was the headline. Before the election, Trump found guilty on 34 counts. Yep. That was the whole point. They now know they're busted. They're worried about their own responsibilities, their own misconduct, and this is why they're in retreat.
Roger, my whole family's in banking. I'm the only one who didn't make it into banking, probably because I wasn't too good at math. I was better at reading. But and that's including some folks in my family who are Democrats who saw this case, who are lawyers, and said this makes absolutely zero sense, because President Trump can say his property's worth 200, 300, 400 million. He can say whatever the hell he wants, right? He can say it's worth $1 and so. Okay. The end of the day, Roger, appraisers come in. His own appraisers come in and say, this is what it's worth. All these buildings are insured. You have to provide the appraisal price to the insurance companies so they can insure the buildings. When the bank comes and gets the money, they send their own underwriters to figure out what the building's worth. I mean, this went through 3 or 4 different people, Roger. It doesn't take a brain scientist to figure out what went on there. I mean, truly troubling. I want to take a quick break here. When we return, New York's not the only one who are ready to keep going. Governor Gavin Newsom is calling a special session starting next month because he's terrified of Donald Trump. Big tough guy he is out there. Coming right back with the great Roger Stone. Stay with us.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back with the great Roger Stone, and Roger will be with us, as I said, each and every week here on the Great America Show. He's a fan favorite and one of my favorites, become a good friend of mine. Roger, Gavin Newsom, the Marxist Dem governor of California, has called the special legislative session on December 2nd. Newsom saying that Trump, based on his actions taken during his first term in office, is a threat to California's climate change program, illegal immigration population, women's rights, and LGBTQ plus rights. Newsom says California is ready to fight. Quote, I just called an emergency session just to help bolster our legal resources and protect our state against any unlawful actions by the incoming Trump administration. What the hell is he so nervous about?
Well, this is the opening volley of his presidential campaign. He wanted to run this time. They settled on brainless Kamala instead of him, even though his hair is virtually perfect. He is now beginning to look at little Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, is 5'3". I've had it up to here with Josh. Shapiro has also kicked off his campaign. He thinks the first plank in that is to try to steal a U.S. Senate seat from Republican Dave McCormick, who I believe defeated the current senator, Bob Casey, son of an undistinguished previous governor, who they used to call the three-time loss from Holy Cross. So it is an internal Democrat squabble here. But what's sad is that they think pushing transgenderism and a radical LGBT agenda these are bedrock matters of concern to the American people who can barely afford food, find affordable housing, pay for a gallon of gasoline, and are worried that we may be hit by a nuke because Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken are steering us closer and closer to world war. So I think this is early maneuvering between those two, a giant and a midget, in the preparation for the next presidential race.
You know, it's so funny to see, and you saw it at that dinner. I think it was with the Al Smith dinner where President Trump attended and Kamala didn't for Catholic Charities. And you saw Eric Adams go up to him. By the way, I think Eric Adams voted for Trump, and I think he said he's excited to work with President Trump because I do think, against all odds, Roger, and President Trump owes nothing to New York. They've done nothing but hurt him. It's the city that made him, but now it's the city that's trying to destroy him. So he owes nothing to this shithole state that I live in. That's number one. Number two, I think he is ready to work with these folks and try to really make America great again and do the right thing. But you've got Chuck Schumer, Roger. In August, Chuck Schumer wanted to abolish the filibuster so the Dems can rule by simple majority. This week, you have Chuck Schumer saying that both parties should work together and the GOP should not be able to legislate with a simple majority. Schumer at that dinner looked like he was terrified crapping bricks, the big tough guy that he is. What do you think Trump does? Do you think he gives Mike Johnson a long leash? Because, you know, I said this the other day, Roger, it kills me enough that Lou's not around anymore. But Lou was one of the few people, Roger, who put the foot on the gas to get McCarthy out of there for lying. And we had members of Congress, and I tell this all the time, and staffers calling us each and every day, keep going. It's making a difference. People see what you're doing. Lou's not around anymore. There's not very many people who are going to do that, to hold Mike Johnson accountable, because it's up to him to make the plan about how they go about legislating. The other side, Roger, we have the Senate. Froghorn, Leghorn, Mitch McConnell's leaving. Who's going to take that job? It can't be John Cornyn. It cannot be John Thune. Do you think President Trump ultimately makes the right decision here on that Senate side and tells Mike Johnson, you get your ass to work and you make no sidesteps or you're out of there?
Well, I would certainly hope so. Let's start from the beginning. This idea that Eric Adams was prosecuted because he opposed the Biden open borders policy is complete and utter bullshit. Yeah. He was an advocate for sanctuary cities and New York being a sanctuary city. His only disagreement with Biden is that they wouldn't, give him a multi-billion-dollar check to pay for the mess that they created.
Right.
So, and the charges against him are not insignificant. He took $100,000 from Turkey, which is illegal to take campaign funding from a foreign country. He laundered it through straw donors, and then he submitted it for a 10-to-1 match through the city's campaign finance matching fund. That is not getting an upgrade of your seat on an airplane. It's not getting an extra Bloody Mary. It is a serious, serious crime, and that's just the surface. We had the New York City Police Commissioner's brother shaking down restaurants and nightclubs in a protection racket. You want to have problems with the New York cops, or if you don't, you better pay us. We had the New York City Fire Commissioner taking payments from communist China. Shall I keep going? This list gets longer and longer. So don't buy that idea that Eric Adams was punished by the Biden Justice Department. This investigation has been open for 10 years. It didn't just start with the mayor of New York complaining about the fact that the feds would not pay for the mess they made. The Roosevelt Hotel, a landmark. This was the headquarters of Governor Thomas E. Dewey, two-time Republican nominee for president. This was the headquarters of Governor Nelson Rockefeller. This was the headquarters of Mayor John Lindsay when he was a Republican. This is a landmark. This was one of the finest properties in New York. It is now a homeless shelter for illegals and a crime scene on a daily basis. New York is coming apart at the seams, but Eric Adams put these migrant shelters in stable, working class, blue collar, more Republican areas. So I have no sympathy for Eric Adams. And by the way, I think there's more indictments coming.
For sure.
Beyond that, let me go to the second part of your question is, I strongly support Rick Scott, my own senator here from Florida. I've disagreed with him here and there on an issue or two, but by and large, he was an excellent governor. He's been an excellent U.S. senator. He had the courage to support Donald Trump when others did not have that courage. And I think he's the man for the job. John Thune is a creation of Karl Rove. He's another rhino who loves endless foreign war. I don't, this is a very insular inside game. John Cornyn is another one who's not had the guts to stand up for Donald Trump and the America First agenda. So I'm hopeful that Rick Scott will emerge as the new majority leader who had the courage to take on Mitch the Turtle when nobody else would.
And he paid the price, Roger. He paid the price.
Yes, he did.
He got no money on re-election and stopped on and threatened to be kicked off of committees. I absolutely agree with you on Eric Adams. I think Eric Adams is guilty as can be. I'm not going to try to debate that, but there's no doubt in my mind that he probably is looking a little bit more favorable to Donald Trump now because he's going to probably need him for a pardon or something further on down the road. And it's not like Donald Trump to turn their back. He doesn't turn his back on anybody, Republican or Democrat. The last one we left out there was Mike Johnson. I mean, I don't think Mike has proven himself yet. January 6 tapes, the list goes on and on. He's caved to the Democrats multiple times. CR after CR, they can't get a budget through. They're going to have to get a budget through, Roger. The corporate tax cuts are going to have to be renewed. We need a border wall. Paul Ryan did everything he could to stop Trump with the legislative agenda. And a lot of people don't know that. It's up to the Speaker of the House to call the legislative agenda, bring it to the president, and then say, pitches, this is what I can get through my conference first, and then we'll get to this stuff later. Paul Ryan obviously sabotaged President Trump trying to go with healthcare first, ate up a shit ton of time, and he ran out of time for everything else, and then the Dems took over, so it was out of time. Do you think he keeps Johnson on a short leash? He seems like he likes the guy, which makes me nervous a little bit. Do you think he keeps a short leash on him?
Well, this is very, very simple. Now that we have a more durable majority, Mike Johnson needs to appoint a committee to investigate the January 6th committee investigation.
Yes.
We need that investigation. Why would they destroy all their records on their way out the door? We now know that Liz Cheney was suborning perjury by coaching witnesses behind the backs of their attorneys. She did the same thing to me and to General Flynn. She got this woman, Cassidy Hutchinson, to lie about things that never happened. She got Hutchinson to say that President Trump instructed his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, to call Roger Stone and General Flynn on January 5th to find out what was going to happen on the 6th. Sorry, MSNBC, that never happened. There is no phone record. That literally never happened, period. Never had any communications with Mark Meadows then or at any other time for that matter. Either did General Flynn. So, and that's just one of the many lies regarding us that she coached. We need to know who was manipulating the videos there. Huge video manipulation. They're so sloppy that they're confection videos using AI, which are meant to demean me, that they leaked to CNN. They're different than the ones they show on their televised hearing. And they're all fraudulent, which I can prove with a simple AI detection software program. So the whole thing is a fraud. We know it's a fraud. Let Speaker Johnson appoint a committee with people like Corey Mills and people with some intestinal fortitude to get to the bottom of what really happened in that investigation. There's a good place to start.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to take one more quick break here. When we return, President Biden giving a speech this week, a concession speech. He sounded awfully happy, Roger, and it just goes to the tune of what we've been talking about for weeks on this show, that Joe Biden hates Kamala Harris, and I think he likes Donald Trump a little bit more. There were some more telltale signs as for Joe Biden as well. We're going to take one more quick break. We're coming back with Roger Stone. Stay with us.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra My Pillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic My Pillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size My Pillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use My Pillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size My Pillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We are back. We're talking with the great Roger Stone, who's going to be with us each and every single week until you guys fire me as hosting this show. Roger, I want to play a clip from Joe Biden this week giving his concession speech.
The struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature.
Sounds like a man who's greatly defeated, Roger, but you saw some subliminal messages throughout the course of the campaign that we've spoken about here. President Biden putting on that Trump hat in Shakersville. Jill Biden and Joe Biden not attending any events, being uninvited to any Kamala events, which I think Joe would have probably been better off than putting Mark Cuban out there as a surrogate with the crap that he did. But you saw Jill Biden going to vote in all red. You saw Joe Biden, before he gave that speech, Roger, grinning from ear to ear, calling President Trump, inviting. Now, it's customary to go ahead and invite him to the White House as every president, but the relationship they have, Roger, is not the greatest as they've gotten families involved and the whole story goes on. But it seems like Joe Biden is a Trumper.
Well, look, Joe Biden's always been a very proud guy, very vain guy with a higher opinion of himself than anybody else. And he deeply resents the fact that he was bludgeoned and forced out of this race by Barack Obama and then ultimately replaced by his own vice president. So I don't think he loves Donald Trump either. But at this point, he probably dislikes Obama and Kamala more. Jill Biden shows up at the polling place wearing a bright red dress. What was that about? What signal was she trying to send?
Yeah.
Look, I don't like Joe Biden. I've never liked him.
Yeah, I don't either.
I always thought he was a pompous ass. But a sitting president at his party's convention, you push him after midnight so he's not at prime time, and you tell him don't hang around for the nomination of your successor. That's disrespectful to the institution of the U.S. presidency. It's not right. And I think that Joe Biden had mixed emotions. But at the end of the day, I didn't see him doing anything effective for Kamala. And here's the single smartest thing he did. Oh, no. She was in on every major decision in this administration. So if you like the inflation and the gas prices and the food prices,
Afghanistan,
and the wars that we're trying to pursue, she was in on it all, folks. That was a death hug is what that was.
I want to get to those wars in a second when we wrap up here, but I just want to talk about, Roger, the finger pointing. When the Republicans didn't do as well in the midterms, they pointed their finger at Trump. His messaging is not good. We never got that red wave, Roger. But I'm sort of happy we didn't get that red wave then, because we got, Roger, this wasn't even a tsunami. This was a damn earthquake with what we got. A clean sweep across the board. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona is going to be called for Trump. Nevada is going to be called for Trump. I didn't think he was going to win every single one of those. I was confident he prevailed in the election, as I told everybody on the show. But, there was no finger pointing. Now, the rhinos, Roger, want to go ahead and say, before the election, he might not win. His messaging is no good. It's over. Mitch McConnell said it's over. But you don't hear these people coming out now, Roger, and saying, his messaging is what won us this election. What you do see on the Democrat side now, Roger, is they're all pointing fingers, and they're pointing fingers at George Clooney. I mean, it's unbelievable that these people take no accountability. The accountability is you chose Kamala Harris. George Clooney did not. I hate George Clooney to his guts. I hate Robert De Niro's guts. They did not choose Kamala Harris. They could have done this the diplomatic way, Roger. They knew Joe Biden wasn't going to make it to the election. They could have held an open primary where they could have put up a Shapiro. They could have put up a Gavin Newsom that maybe had a chance to beat Trump. I don't think so. But going from within the administration to take somebody, as you said, who was in on everything was not the winning message. And I'm not a Republican strategist, Roger. I'm just a common senser. And for me, common sense, that makes no sense.
Well, and she walked into it herself. I mean, remember when she was asked in one of these interviews, one of the very few interviews that she actually gave, is there anything you would have done differently than Joe Biden? She said, no, I really can't think of anything. Right. So that's why their closing message was Trump is Hitler and anybody who votes for him is a Nazi. That's not a very uplifting, positive, driving message for the country, is it? That's because they had nothing else. This was the worst presidential campaign in modern political history. Whereas on the Republican side, she took a lot of slings and arrows, but Susie Wiles ran the most disciplined, organized, orderly presidential campaign in our history. And that's not easy with Donald Trump because he's a wild animal. He's his own man. He does things his own way. Yet she brought order and discipline and planning to that campaign. She was attacked relentlessly by some in our own camp, but they were wrong, and I was right. And those who saw her as the right person for that job were right. So at the end of the day, here, I really think America is about to enter a golden age. Donald Trump has a unique opportunity to return this country to unprecedented peace and prosperity, an opportunity for all Americans to restore justice to this country. We came this close to destruction. I thought about this. Somewhere in a better place where we are, Lou Dobbs was looking down on all of this, and he was smiling.
Yeah, he absolutely is. I mean, Lou, I often tell everybody, it wasn't because he was my boss, and it wasn't because he was my mentor, and it wasn't because he taught me everything I know. But, when I first started working for Lou, Roger, I'll tell you a quick funny story. I walked into his office, and we started talking politics, and I started saying, he asked me who I like in the Senate. And I'm naming off names. He goes, that guy's no good. I won't say what he actually said, but that guy's no good. And I'm like, what the hell does this guy know? Roger, each and every single one of them that I named off at one point or another turned out to be a lowlife, turned out to be scum. There wasn't one person, Roger, that Lou was off on. That man had a radar that was like no other. He was right about every single person. In 2016, Roger, you may remember this. He was the only person on television who stood by Donald Trump after that Access Hollywood tape came out. One of the only people in the industry to stand by him because he knew what it was. It was a bunch of nonsense and bullshit. I want to wrap up with this, Roger, and we miss Lou so much, by the way. I think of him every day. I want to wrap up with this. President Trump, less than 24 hours after getting winning the presidency, is already getting to work, taking calls from world leaders, Netanyahu, Modi, Moon, across the board. Hamas has announced, Roger, they want this war to end. That was less than 24 hours. Just a little bit, 24 hours after 24 hours, we learned that the Kremlin says that they are open to meeting with Donald Trump before he's inaugurated. Now, I see this one or two ways, Roger. If he ends that war in Ukraine before he takes office, they will say he's a Russian asset, he's best friends with Vladimir Putin, and that's how he was able to do it. If he doesn't end that war before he takes office, they will say Donald Trump lied to us. He couldn't get done what he promised he was going to do. He was going to end that war. How do you see both of those situations going?
I actually, look, I'm not a foreign policy expert. I'm a politico. My specialty is winning elections in the United States. Yeah. However, I think that the Russians have actually shown restraint, waiting for the outcome of our election to see if they could get someone from the United States to actually sit down and see if we could negotiate a settlement, along with, of course, the Ukrainians. We don't even have peace talks going on. There are no negotiations. This is beyond belief. We're this close to a world war, but we don't even have a dialogue going between the two sides. That's not leadership. That's insanity. So I took this as a very positive sign. I do believe there's a solution. By the way, Joe Biden blurted out that he was willing to give the Russians parts of Ukraine to settle the war until his handlers shut him up. So, no, he's not just going to give half the country to Russia to solve the war. Right. That's what they'll be saying over at MSNBC. But he's a deal maker. He knows how to make a deal, and he knows that we have to stop the killing.
Yep.
We have to stop the killing, both in the Middle East and here. He's the only one that can do it. One of the principal reasons he won in this blowout election last Tuesday is because he ran as the peace candidate. Remember when the Democrats were the party of peace? They didn't like the war in Vietnam. The FBI was corrupt, and they thought the surveillance of the police state was horrific. Now they embrace all those things. They're wonderful. Everything has changed. Final point. We're heading into the biggest, most massive realignment in American politics.
Absolutely.
We had one in 1932 when Franklin Roosevelt broke the Republican grip on African-American voters who were solidly Republicans because of the Civil War, because of the Great Emancipation, but because of the Depression and the fact that the New Deal offered Black Americans some help, reformed a coalition that governed until 1952, from 32 to 52. Then in 1968, Richard Nixon forged a new coalition in which blue-collar Catholics in the Middle East and the industrial Northeast joined with white Southerners who previously had voted Democrat to form a new permanent coalition that once it's fully matured, brings Ronald Reagan to the White House. Same coalition, by the way, that brought Donald Trump to the White House. It's the same coalition that Donald Trump has now expanded, adding African Americans, adding Hispanics, adding Catholics. So we're at a time when Dick Cheney and his corrupt daughter and what's left of the McCains and little Adam Kissinger, they can go with the globalist war hawk party. We'll take Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We'll take Tulsi Gabbard. We'll take Governor Rod Blagojevich. We'll take common sense Democrats who believe in free enterprise and capitalism and a strong national defense and the defense of the middle class and making America both prosperous and healthy again. This is the most significant development politically in my lifetime. I'm just happy to be alive today to be a part of it.
You missed two, Roger. They're two important ones, I think. We'll also take Elon Musk, the world's smartest and richest man.
Yes.
And we'll take one. I know you didn't like him, and I'm sure you like him a little bit better now, Joe Rogan. I'll let you think about that one for next week's show. I want to wrap up with one thing.
I'm with you on Elon. I love Elon. I'm grateful to have my free speech rights back on X, where, by the way, I'm Roger J. Stone Jr., Roger J. Stone Jr. I'm verified there. Please follow me.
Yeah, be sure to do that, folks. I know you're not too hot on Joe Rogan, but at the end of the day, he did finally have Trump on the podcast, Roger. It did 30 or so million views. And we don't know how many of those people are in Arizona or Las Vegas or somewhere in Nevada who did it. So, we can argue about it, but at the end of the day, I think he did the right thing. Whatever. Last thing I want to wrap up with here. I saw a chart out on Twitter the other day, and it's very telling. It shows that in 2012, 2016, 2024, there's a similarity of Democratic votes across America, somewhere in the range of 65 to 68 million, somewhere in there. There is one outlier, Roger, and by the way, in those years, the Republican vote has continued to grow from 60 million up to about 63 million. Up to 71 million, which was 2020. There's 1 year, and then this year, obviously, where he's going to reach that as well. But there's one issue there, and it's 2020, Roger. They go from 65 to 81 million, and now back down to 67. Yeah. All of us, most of the people I have on the show, including you and I, Roger, we're election deniers. That's not, I don't consider myself that, but that's what the left will consider me, and they consider you. I don't think there's a time better than right now to get to the bottom of what happened in 2020 before any statute of limitations run out on election crimes, because that should never happen again, Roger.
Well, I think it's very obvious what happened here. Norm Eisen and Neil Keitel and Andrew Weissman and those who were involved in a criminal conspiracy to steal an American election, they stole more votes than they needed. Yep. It's obvious. So, yes, there's another area where, again, Speaker Johnson should appoint a committee to get to the bottom of that, because it's statistically impossible, as any election expert will tell you.
Yeah. And you know what? Now we'll see if some people grow backbones. We've been talking about it, Roger, for years. Lou's show got canceled on Fox Business for talking about it. Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox News for talking about it. You get canceled across all platforms. We'll now see if these big tough guys all of a sudden want to talk about what we've been talking about for the last 4 years about stolen elections and the consequences we faced. Roger, you're a great American. We'll see you right back here next week. What time and where can everyone listen to you each and every night?
Folks can go to rumble.com/Roger Stone to watch the Stone Zone every day at 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, one of my great privileges is to do 3 hours every Sunday at WABC Radio New York. I used to do 2 hours. I was preceded by the great Lou Dobbs. I'm proud to pick up that mantle. I dedicate my first hour every Sunday to Lou. I do it the way Lou would do it. Lou loved to take people's questions. I'm getting better and better at it. You can go there every Sunday by going to WABCradio.com, WABCradio.com. Thanks for having me on, John, and I'll see you next week.
Roger, real quick before you go, I don't think there's any person, as Lou smiles down on all that's what happened this week, I don't think there's any person more than you then Lou would want to take that spot over for him, with the exception of maybe me, but you can't convince me to go to work on a Sunday. I'm sorry. Roger, we'll see you next week, brother.
Thank you, John. God bless you.
God bless you. Thanks, everybody, for being with us, and thanks to the great Roger Stone. I hope you guys enjoy our conversations as much as I do. Lou is a good friend of Roger's, and Roger was always a friend to the show. So I like to keep that tradition going because I know that's what Lou would have liked. And this is Lou's show after all. I'm just sitting here until him and I meet again one day. So I'm just keeping the seat warm from him for him. Thanks again, everybody, for being with us today. I really appreciate you guys sticking with us through this election and going into now Inauguration Day. We're going to have some fun. We're going to continue to have fun on the show. Special shout out to everyone who watches us and tunes in on Rumble. From now until Christmas, if you become one of our paid monthly subscribers on Rumble, we're sending you your very own Lou Dobbs Tonight mug. So that's over on Rumble if you become one of our monthly subscribers over there. We're sending you a mug free of charge. So head over there and subscribe to us on Rumble, become a monthly subscriber. You can also follow us on Instagram. We now have an Instagram page. It's at The Great America Show. You can follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY and over on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Folks, we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Same time, same place for The Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Our fight continues, folks. May God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.